Okay, where was I? What was I saying?
Downshifting.
Thank you, Johnny. Thank you. What would I do without my cousins?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, that's because I had the same problem.
So sometimes Dad would get so mad at Grandpa. He said that, on the icy roads, those hills back there in that area where Ted's talking about by Lilyville Church, all those hills and stuff. He said, Grandpa would look down and low because there's some ice, so we got to go up this hill. And Dad would be going, no. He said, I instinctively, intuitively knew, don't downshift, stay where you're at. Well, anyhow, as a young person, I think Grandpa's truck, I think any vehicle Uncle Zach had, and I know a seriously horrible story about one of Uncle Eugene's cars that Dad got stuck on the railroad tracks below the farm. And that was a bad one. Dad didn't talk about that one too much because he got kicked out of him by Uncle Eugene. He said he ran out in the middle of the creek to get away from Uncle Eugene because he was going to kill him. Uncle Eugene was big. And Uncle Zach wasn't too small either, but Daddy was. And he said, Eugene was on the side going, you got to come out sooner or later. But Anna Dream went and got Uncle Zach. And that's one time Uncle Zach saved my dad. So Dad's stories with cars goes on and on. You're going to look around the room. Up here we have the 48 Buick, which was Daddy's favorite car, so it's right up here by his pipes and all his favorite things. But in the back you'll see lots and lots of cars. And Daddy in the 40s, before and after the Navy, Dad started collecting quite a few cars. And one night, he and his buddy are in Newcastle, one of his favorite places to hang out, Elwood City in Newcastle. And they're hanging out, and his buddy says, hey, drive over to the hill, where Jameson Hospital is. I'm dating a chick there, man, we're gonna pick her up. Well, believe it or not, I never got this one. I asked so many times. My dad's nickname was Dag. Did you get that, Diane? Like, Dag?
You know what that was for?
Oh, tell me, Ted.
It started out when he was younger, because they would crank him up. He was always hyper.
He was hyper.
They called him Mad Dog, and that got corrupted over time to Dag.
Okay, did everybody hear that? Yeah, so Dad had a lot of energy as a little kid, and doing a lot of wild things, and it ended up, turning into Dag. Okay, so that was his nickname. So his buddy, and I can't remember which buddy it was, but his buddy said, there's a bus stop there and she'll be waiting. Well, guess what?
That was Bill Flinner.
Oh, well, I gotta talk about Bill Flinner. I just spent an hour talking to Bill Flinner. Okay, so Dad and his buddy Bill pull up to pick up Bill's girlfriend. And who's with her? My mother. Now, let's just talk about my mother for a minute. My mother, very different from me. Very different from Dad. Quiet, modest, thinks before she talks. Pretty, dainty. My mom used to say she thought that her mother thought that we came over in the Mayflower. That's how strong Americans they were. And that was Scotch Irish. And there's Daddy, French Romanian. First generation. My dad used to tell me his hair, when he met Mom, he could pull his front down to here. And he'd take that, comb it back, and he had all these waves and slick. And I used to say, Daddy, I think you should have been either Cuban or black. He's like, why? I said, the way you dress. I mean, my dear nephew-in-law here has an orange shirt on. That was Dad. Or blue, he loved blue. So here comes my dad in his flashy car. Look at that Buick with the roof down. Here he comes pulling up to the Republican, Presbyterian, Scotch Irish, Grove City, College Town, home of Norma Jean Reed. And my grandparents, my grandfather thought it was pretty cool. My grandmother, I thought she was going to lose her mind. Mom and Dad would tell me these stories like, yeah, Grandma wasn't too crazy about your dad. And I said, yeah, I could kind of see that. Grandma wasn't too crazy about anything unless you were studying, saying prayers. So anyhow, my mother was a dainty, pretty, good little girl who became a registered nurse and was one hell of a person. my dad really kind of brought her out of her shell for being, and that my cousin Diane here, her father and my mother were brother and sister. And her father served in the Marine Corps, World War II, and landed on Iwo Jima. We had a lot of great veterans in our family. On Dad's side, 3 boys went to the war. On Mama's side, 2 boys went. Uncle Eugene did not come home, but Uncle Don was a colonel in the Air Force. He was shot down over Africa, got back up in the air. Uncle Jack was a Marine. He went to Iwo Jima. He made it home. He saw terrible things. He brought a lot of terrible feelings back home. Uncle Zach helped guard the shores of America. Daddy was in the Navy. Everything kind of ended. He was on an aircraft carrier. You'll see pictures of his plane. How do you say that name, Marilyn? Tarawa, his dad's ship, and you'll see it there. It was retired and turned down. So when Dad came home and he started being his wild old self, by this time Uncle Eugene is gone and Grandpap and Grandma have a lot of grief, but everybody's, hanging on. Dad meets my mother. Well, okay guys. So Dad meets Mom, and within a year they're married, and then here comes the kids. 1950, Bruce David. 1951, Charlet Ann. 1955, Marilyn Ray. And I could tell you so many stories. We grew up in a house of love. Our dad had so much love to give. But being a passionate person, passionate people can be very, very fiery. And our dad was either way up here, making everybody's life the best, or he was over here and you're going like, okay, which way do I run? Let me get away from him. But in our life, our dad had really great values. Coco, you gonna go find Daddy? In our life, Dad had a few really heartfelt rules, values. One of them was, Bruce, Charlotte, Marilyn, don't fight. Stick together. Don't ever fight. Bruce, you look out for your sisters. You look out for your mother. When it would come Christmas time or whatever, Dad would count out the money for all 3 of us kids, drive us into Elwood. It was the best day of the year. Drive us into Elwood, and we had energy, and we would shop and shop. Dad would be with our uncle in the Elton Hotel, having a drink, and a drink, and a drink, feeling no pain. We knew that. We'd all look at each other and go, are you out of money? Yeah. Are you out of money? Yeah. Let's go in the Elton and get some more money off of Dad. And he'd say, well, what are you gonna buy? All we had to say was, we're getting something else for Mom. We're getting something else for, okay, here's another 5, here's a 10. We had wonderful Christmases. I don't ever remember ever in our life, as long as we lived at home, ever having a bad Christmas. Bruce and Marilyn and I, Dad and Mom would probably just get done putting everything out. And Bruce and Marilyn and I'd be like, okay, let's get up, let's go. Oh yeah, just tell them to come in. One year, this is my last Christmas story. One year, we we got up really early. Bruce and Marilyn and I, none of us would go out without the other. We really did stick together, and I can tell you, on Dad's values, Bruce and Marilyn and I never did have bad fights. Lots of kids beat each other up as little brothers and sisters. Bruce and Marilyn and I stuck together from day one to the end of Bruce's life. Marilyn and I are still carrying on, and we were really graced. You talk about a good friend of my dad. Our dear sister-in-law right here, Debbie, was the best friend not only to my dad, that was his dinner buddy, not only to my dad, but she was so wonderful to our mother, her best friend forever. Okay, so Marilyn got a bicycle, a 24-inch bicycle, and it was really sharp, and she was looking at it, and oh, this is really cool. And Bruce and I, we start to look. Santa Claus brought Marilyn's bike in the back door? That seems strange. A little bit later, we follow the bicycle right down to Grandpa's garage. And that's when Bruce and I figured out, Dad Dad did this. Santa Claus didn't bring this. That's how Bruce and I figured out. We didn't tell Marilyn that. We spared her. Well, as life goes on and things change, my father's wonderful energy that took him through life, things started to change, in the late 60s and the 70s, and we found our family spread apart. So Mom went back to nursing, Swickley Valley Hospital, 20 years, OBGYN, delivered a lot of beautiful babies. My brother was drafted and went to Vietnam. I got married to my first husband, Johnny, and had my son, John. And Marilyn and Mom tried to carry on. It was very different, living now in town after our beautiful home out in the country. But you know what? Everybody did carry on. Everybody did. We all made it. We all got fine. Dad married Peggy, and Peggy and Dad started a life together where, their home, Dad's garage, he kept on driving his big 18-wheeler for a while, but then he eventually decided to go into a mechanic. That his wonderful grandson, Darren, carries on this incredible thing, this skill, this talent my dad and brother had. And life went on. Unfortunately, in 2004, Daddy had a terrible stroke. Anna Dreen was there. She kept trying to tell him, Raymond, we need to go to the hospital. We need to go to the hospital. And he didn't. By the time he did go to the hospital, he was really damaged. So Dad's right side, from 2004 to 2020, he had to drag it and whatnot. But did that stop him? No. When we talk about determination, we talk about the will to live and the will to go on, Daddy still got out there on his tractor and still kept buying cars. I'd pull in the driveway. I'd fly home from, I lived in California. I now live in New Mexico. I'd fly home and I'd come pulling into Dad's driveway, and I'd come in the house. I go, Daddy, so I see the garage. Oh, sure. Did you see that? I got another car. I said, no kidding. No kidding. Am I surprised? No. By the time Dad died, we had 15 vehicles to get rid of. And, we kept saying, hey, Dad, how about we try this a little bit before? No. You wait till I die, then you get rid of my stuff. Don't touch my stuff. And my cousin Tevin come over, sorry, you want me to help you with the Cub Cadets and stuff? I said, I'd love it. Go talk to him. He's not going to let go of anything. And then Dwight came to visit in September. Dad died in November. And Dad wanted to go out and get on the Cub Cadet. What does Dwight do? Yeah, let's put him on the Cub Cadet. I said, oh, God, don't do that. He'll think he can drive. We'll never get him off of there. But that really was the last time Dad went out and drove anything. And Dwight's right. It was great to see him on the tractor. It was great for him to have fun. Dad's stroke in 2004 really set him back. But what was really bad, compounded on top of that, is the fact that Peggy, who was a very heavy smoker, came down with COPD shortly, right around the same time, a little bit before Dad. She was already being treated, but then she was in the hospital, and she was just really going down and down. She wasn't eating, she was dying. But we all marveled. Remember, girls? Dad's in the hospital, he had a stroke. Now, Peggy hasn't eaten or anything in weeks. She's in the hospital. She's dying. She's given up. She's done. One of us, I don't know, maybe it was one of you girls, yeah. Okay, Marilyn and Deb went into Peggy's room to explain to Peggy that Dad was in the hospital too and had a stroke. Oh my God, get me something to eat! And I'm not exaggerating. She started eating and drinking her Ensures. She was up to Dad's room taking care of him in a minute like that. And she did live a while after that. Dad's stroke was in 2004 and Peggy died in 2006. Dad would say over and over and over to me, God, Char, I never thought I'd be in this predicament. I never thought my wife, there was a good amount, probably 20 years between them. He never thought she would die before he died. But that is what happened. Dad carried on. He still, probably drove Darren crazy with Darren's garage because Dad sold his property and no longer had the garage. And he probably, who knows how many times he was in and out of Darren's garage trying to work on this and work on that. Darren be, that's okay, Pat, I'll do it for you. Because as the wife says, his Mickey Mouse right over here. Go ahead.
You do your thing.
And so anyhow, Dad really liked working in the garage, but he had this big tractor. What was that tractor that Daddy had? Huh? Yadmar. Yeah, he had this big old green tractor, which I think Darren took care of. But he went and he did everybody's fields and yards, even our neighbors. I think Dad's wonderful neighbors here, Andrew and his family, I think they're in the back. Dad would even go and kind of mow down so that they could see if there was any animals or whatever coming out on the road. And he was very proud of the work he did, but that's what he was. He was raised with those kind of values. He'd get up in the morning after Peggy died. Dad would go out to Rogers, Ohio to get some cherry pies and buy whatever else. Well, a little Amish girl out there that used to make his pies, her oven went bad or something, and she couldn't make pies anymore. So Dad went to the grocery store and he bought a couple apple cherry pies. You'll see pictures of them on the screen. And he hated them, full of sugar. I don't like that sugar, Char. I'm gonna make my own pies. So he calls Aunt Adrene, his trusted best friend. He says, Adrene, tell me what I could do about this. And so she's going, well, Raymond, just don't put the sugar in there. And she teaches him, he doesn't. After that, every week, Dad made apple and cherry pie, and he ate them. Now, he never thought that our mother needed an automatic washer, or that she even needed the washer and dryer to come upstairs. Oh, but now Dad's doing his own laundry? Oh, upstairs the washer and dryer come. And then he tells me, Char, I don't see this woman's work. It's not hard. I go in there, throw the clothes in the washer, and I throw them in the dryer. I said, yeah, Dad, but I think the key word there is I. Solo. Mom was doing a whole family and hanging them outside and bringing them in. And a ringer washer at that. So Dad started being very efficient. He started cooking. He did all these great things. And when I would come home, or Marilyn and Debbie, we'd all be like amazed, like, God, could you have seen Dad doing these things when we were kids? As the years went on, really, even up to 2019, Dad died in November of 2020. Even up to 2019, he was still driving. He was still going to the store. He was still doing all his own banking. He was doing everything, his own wash, whatever. But little by little, he'd tell us girls he needs some company, needs some help. And so as we got to 2020, Daddy was really slipping, but he didn't think he was. But he was really slipping. And he started to say some things that I would like to honor here today, because it's not many people that face their life and look to see where they could have been better. Look to see who they might have hurt, intentionally or not intentionally. My dad looked at his life that way. He knew. I'm sorry, Char. I'm really sorry. I could have been a better dad. I'm sorry, Marilyn. I'm sorry. He didn't get it in time for Bruce. And Bruce really deserved it. You never saw two better friends than Bruce and my dad. Our dad. They were the very, very, very best of friends. Bruce, like my mother, smart, quiet. He thought before he spoke. Then there was Dad and I. Oh, did that really come out of my mouth? Of course, Marilyn's always been the best. She's a great blend of both. But Mom and Bruce were quite shy and quiet and brilliant. And Dad and I were kind of different. And Marilyn's a good blend of both. Toward the end of Dad's life, he would see me doing hair to our family and whatnot. Because I've been a hairdresser. I went to beauty school at 15, 1967. And on my dad's 39th birthday in 1966, Mom and Dad spent Dad's birthday signing me up at Mr. Franco's Beauty Academy on Merchant Street in Ambridge. So when Dad would see me doing hair, and then Dad always had beautiful hair, and he couldn't believe he lost his hair, but he started having me shave his head. And then I also had helped create a hair color line where I was doing customer care and hotline stuff, and Dad would sit there and listen to me on the phone going, okay, here's what you gotta do this, do that. I said, okay, we want to thank you for your business. And I'd hang up and he'd go, good work, Char. Can't you just see him? Good work, Char. That's smart. Thanking them for their business. I should have done that with my garage. He said, but I gave him a pen every year. And I said, yeah, I know, Dad, I know. Then he'd go, that was the best $750 I ever spent. And I would look at him. Now, Dad couldn't remember what we did the day before or what we had for breakfast that morning. And I'd go, $750, Daddy? He'd go, yeah, it's the best $750 I ever spent. I said, are you talking about what you spent to sign me up for beauty school? He goes, yeah. I couldn't believe it. I was like, yeah, you're right, Dad. Yeah, you're right. It brought me a good life. And I've had a lot of fun, a lot of success, and I'm very proud of what I was able to do because I many times think of my dad. My dad had the most beautiful hair, and I really started doing hair by doing Grandma's hair. Did Grandma's hair every day. And of course, all Marilyn's haircuts. She went to first grade with kind of, That's why I became a hair colorist and not a hair cutter. My husband is the hair cutter. Okay, so I'm kind of rambling on a little bit, but I'm going to stop here.